All right. So, any stories you want to tell us?
Any besides the ones that aren't in here that we'll already find out?
Well, everything that I'll tell you is in the book, and I just hope that thing that comes out good.
No, it will. I mean, the phone takes 15
I don't know
minutes
what you might try doing is just open the book to a page and read a couple of lines, and I can take it from there and tell you.
Okay, all right, yeah. Is there a specific date or?
No, just that's got over a year's worth of information in it. So if you just pick a date.
Okay, 15th of May, 03.
Yeah, we were just getting there.
Okay.
Well, we just got there, so it's probably not going to be too exciting. Yeah.
All right. Okay, this one is it the 15th or the 5th of June? It says the bullet was deflected by his vest into his
throat.
Yeah.
Into his throat. All right.
Yeah, in the left part of his neck.
All right. We had. They were doing security out in Baghdad, and it was Mark Ballou, and I'd like to say the other guys. I can't remember the other guy's name. No, you go ahead. Okay. They were doing security at a bank, and a guy came up and shot both of them. One guy took a shot around right to his chest, and the other guy took one and it deflected up into his neck, and it wound up going and doing some severe damage to the man, and it was terrible because he was. Well, the guy was killed as he was running away, but Mark was one of our medics, and he was out there doing a patrol. So when we heard that we were getting wounded, and everybody gets on the alert, and you're waiting, and then they bring this guy they took him out of the back of a civilian ambulance, and they were rolling him down toward us, and we were like, holy shit, that's Mark. Excuse me. It's kind of rough when when you're working with the infantry and you get to know the guys, it's kind of hard, but you can kind of disengage yourself because he's not one of yours. But to see your own medic that severely injured, and we actually had to paralyze him so that we could breathe for him. We had to intubate him and flew him right out. So he was one of our first casualties. He was one of the first, and he made it back home. I spoke to him when I was on leave. Yeah, it was a pretty hellacious day. I even got criticized because there were a couple of Iraqi policemen or security guards that were just standing there, and this guy's laying on a stretcher that we haven't even put him onto our table yet, and everybody's just standing around. And they criticized me for pushing people out of his way so that we could, and I knocked a couple of these little Iraqi guys down.
Yeah.
And I was criticized for knocking them down. And why didn't you just tell them what to do? They don't speak English. That's why I didn't tell them what to do. Get out of the way. You're either in the way or you're helping.
Yeah.
So we took care of him. We like I said, we had to paralyze him so that we could breathe for him and treat him. But he made it. I'm pretty sure he made a full recovery. Last time I spoke to him, he was on the road to recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was
probably the one that I picked. I just want to take a picture of it so that I can.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad day. We've had good days over there. We've had bad days over there.
Yeah. Well, I guess I opened to a bad one there.
We had a 4th of July picnic over there. We had PSYOPs, psychological operations, and they drove around in big Humvees with these big speakers on them. And when we would do a raid or something, we would play Ozzy's Crazy Train.
Really?
Going in there. Oh yeah, we'd get all keyed up for these raids. And we called them up. And we had requested through one of the sergeants that was there that we wanted them for the 4th of July. We had a volleyball court set up out back of where we were, and we played volleyball. That was our physical training each day. So we wanted them for our picnic. And he said, no, you have to actually send in the right paperwork for a mission. So the colonel sent in paperwork. He had a mission going on that day, and when they sent the truck over, he canceled the mission and said, why don't you guys stay for lunch? And they stayed, and they set their speakers up, and we rocked Baghdad that day. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, July 13th, 03, the next day would be their anniversary of their revolution.
14 July is their anniversary, right. Yeah, their Independence Day.
Okay, and you said it's like our 4th of July, except they will try to kill as many Americans as they can. Is that, did they do anything to kind of...
I don't remember the exact day, but You'd have to read a little more so I can
Okay.
kind of jog my memory there.
Okay, the holiday threat will last 4 days. We're all, I think, confined to the compound until it's over. The word is that they want to attack our camp. Guerrilla tactics, I'm sure. They would never stand and exchange.
Stand and exchange fire face to face?
Right, yes.
All right. What the reason we were confined to our buildings and to our area is because I'm sure you've all seen on the news they just shoot up in the air. Well, we call those God bullets because they come out of nowhere and they can strike you dead. It's not so much the ones they shoot straight up because there's not much force for them coming down, but when they shoot on an angle, it's got the trajectory, it can hurt you. So we were all told we had to stay inside for a few days. And they probed us, they'd come by. It wasn't so much that they were trying to attack us, but they would drive by in their pickup trucks or their little cars and they would shoot at the gate, they would shoot at the buildings. But it's the way they were, like it said in there, they tried guerrilla tactics, because there's no way, if they were to stand and fight face to face, there's no way they'd win. That's why even now they're using the IEDs and the planting bombs everywhere and the suicide bombers, because they know they'll never be able to beat us in a fair face-to-face kind of battle. They had a speaking of 14th July, there's a bridge. It's the 14th July Bridge, loosely translated, their Revolutionary Bridge, and it goes from Baghdad out into one of the suburbs, or from the suburb into Baghdad. And the bridge, from the bridge, you can see Saddam's palace, where we were at the Green Zone. Well, they had a horse-drawn or a donkey-drawn missile cart, homemade, loaded missiles in it, and they attacked the hotel there. And I think Paul Wolfowitz was I think that's who it was, Secretary of Defense Wolfowitz was at that hotel when it happened. And this was right after, I think it was in May, and this was right after President Bush was on the aircraft carrier saying mission accomplished and all that stuff. And we were all joking, yeah, you'll get a phone call from Wolfowitz saying, I don't think so, boss. This ain't even close to being over yet.
So, I mean, is there any significant day, or do you just want me to go through and kind of?
No, there's no real significant day, but the more I'm thinking about things now, I could tell you things that have happened and. It'll pretty much just jog my memory if you read from that. I remember one time, I'm just thinking of things to say here because I know I'm being recorded.
That's okay.
So we used to get our mail call would come like once every 2 or 3 days, and we would get a 5-ton truck full of mail. And my nieces in Brooklyn, they were in the Girl Scouts, so they would send me cases, a case of Girl Scout cookies. And after the first 1 or 2 came in, I would tell the guys, look, if I'm not here, if I'm out on a mission, and you see one of these boxes from the Girl Scouts, take the box, because I would take a box of cookies out of them, and I would take the case, go back to your area, give the cookies out, but save me 1 box. Just bring me a box. And I can't tell you how many times guys would come up to me, hey, Sergeant, here's your box. Because then I would know that the cookies came and everybody else was eating them. But one day at mail call, I get this tall, it had to be about 3.5 feet tall, box, long skinny box in the mail. What the hell is this? So I open the thing up, and it's a golf club. It's a sand wedge. And it was from my father, and the note said, you're in the biggest sand trap in the world, work on your game.
That's great.
So I was. One Sunday, and he worked for Bonita Bay, so he sent me a gold Bonita Bay t-shirt, polo shirt. So I'm out there in our back area where we play volleyball, all sand, and I'm hitting the ball around. I got my rifle over my back, and I'm wearing my desert camouflage pants, and I'm hitting the ball, and I hear gunshots, and the sand starts flinging up. So me and the guy that was out there, we returned fire. Thought nothing of it. It was just another day. It's just what happens. Well, we get a call that and it was a Sunday, so I was off. So we get a call that were taken wounded. Well, it wasn't our wounded, so I just happened to wander through the aid station, and this guy started going nuts, yelling and screaming. Translator comes over to me and says, "Corr, you can't be here." I said, "Why?" She says, "You're the one that shot him." I said, "Is that the son of a bitch that was shooting at me?" She said, "Yeah." So I went over to the infantry unit that was out on patrol that brought him in, and they had a whole bunch of stuff that they had taken from him, and they had his bayonet. So I grabbed the bayonet, and the sergeant grabbed my hand, and he says, "That's evidence." I said, "Evidence my ass. This isn't America." I said, "I'm taking this. My war trophy. Son of a bitch tried to kill me." So I have the bayonet at home with the guy that tried to kill me. I would have brought that today, but I don't think the bayonet in the store would have been a nice thing.
Okay, 24th of July, 03. I know I'm kind of sticking in the same month here, but there was an incident here this afternoon. An Iraqi national and two of his friends were carjacking another Iraqi right outside the gate. Is that anything of significance, or was it just another day?
Just another day.
Yeah. Okay.
I do remember, though, maybe in the book, it's from my standpoint, it was kind of amusing. The guy was, he had a car bomb, and he was driving right in front of our compound, and we had 50 calibers on both sides, and we had a 50 caliber at the back door, and we had M60, so we had 30 calibers up on the roof. So we were pretty heavily defended, and the guys on a 50 left, so the street was coming from this way. And when they said when he got to about the front of the compound, they heard this loud hissing noise, and they looked over, and just as they looked at the car, it filled up with smoke, and then it just burst into flames. So, haha, buddy, your bomb didn't work. It was one of those. He tried to detonate just as he was passing our building, but it just burned. It didn't explode.
Yeah.
Which we thought was.
So did you grab him, or did you just?
No, he was burned in the car.
Oh. Okay. So
he was still in the car. He was.
Explosion is the point?
He was trying to make a very big explosion, but it just
died.
It
just went on fire.
Right?
It didn't explode. It just went on fire.
He was burning slowly alive.
Yeah.
Was he stuck in there?
Yep. Oh well.
It's by choice.
Because it should have killed him if it was if it wasn't a dud.
He'd have been dead anyway.
Right.
More quickly.
No, I'm all over you.
I'm used to it.
It says on the 29th, I obviously passed something, but our mission was a great success. The 29th of July, 28th. What was do you remember the mission that you were now?
Like I said, you got to kind of refresh my memory on some things there. But there were days that I didn't write for like 3 or 4 days, and then I had to like pick it up again.
Yeah. Okay, so it goes from the 29th back to the 28th, 27th. How long would a mission be, depending on?
Well, it depends on what else is in the book there. It's all right. I would drive into Baghdad while she's looking for things. I'll drive from Kuwait. I was in Camp Arakjan, and I'll drive up the highway into Baghdad. Led us through nothing, absolutely nothing, just the desert. As far as your eyes could see, there was nothing. So in certain places, we would do a tactical stop. And a tactical stop is if everybody's driving down the road, you face off the road in different directions, and all right, if you and I are in an ambulance together, all right, while you're relieving yourself, I'm pulling security, we call it, making sure nothing happens, and then you do the same for me. So it's 50% security. I can't tell you, we would stop there before we got to Talil Air Base. We stopped there, and like I said, as far as you could see, nothing. We're there for about 5 minutes, and there's people around. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? It's like 120 degrees, blistering sun. They just walked up to the compound. We're like, I don't remember seeing any mud huts or anything. There's nothing here.
Right.
And people just walking up out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, just materializing out of nowhere.
Okay, so this
Kinda
one
weird.
says, this will probably be the most difficult mission since we've been here. The location is inside Saddam City. The
Saddam
place until
City.
now listed as off limits.
Yeah.
Do you know?
It's actually called Sadr City, S-A-D-R City,
okay.
but that's Saddam.
Okay.
And it was a little bit north and east of us, only about 3 blocks away from where we were. And it was the stronghold for the Republican Guard and his, what the hell did they call those people? The Bath Party.
Bath party?
Yeah, B-A-A-T-H. Not his Bath Party. It's not that kind of party, babe. So we couldn't go in there. We did cordon and searches in there, but we just kind of probed them like they would probe us. Go in just to the outskirts of the city, because the city itself had walls around it.
Right.
This neighborhood had walls around it, and the houses, every house had like an 8 or 10 foot fence in front of it, iron gates. I mean, everybody was securing their own shit from everybody.
Right.
And we would just go in, we would pretty much just put our toe in to test the waters. Well, they got tired of testing the waters, so they decided we were going to do a full out raid. And the raid went fairly well. It went fairly well. We did a lot of reconnaissance on it, and we gathered a lot of information. We expected massive casualties. We had almost none. One casualty came from our company. Actually, it came from Bravo Company. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Well, the lieutenant from that company founded that organization after we got back. And the hell was his kid's name? Ryback, something like that.
Would it be in here?
Yeah, it might be. Reimer. Well, anyway, he was his radio operator, and they went through one of these iron gates, and he thought the guy just punched him in the face or hit him in the face with his pistol. That wasn't the case. The guy shot him in the face. The bullet went in his nose, and thank God it was probably one of those little Iraqi reloads with no ass behind it. It went in his nose and knocked out his tooth. It came down through his sinus cavity and knocked out his tooth. So
He thought he was just hit in the face?
yeah, he thought the guy just punched him in the face. I lost a tooth, I'm bleeding. Well, we get back and find out that there's a bullet lodged in his gum.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was
Oh my
that
God.
was pretty astounding.
I don't see that name in here, but I might. Okay, well, we'll move on. Trying to find something good too. Something the golf story was a good memory. Besides the whole shooting aspect.
He won.
Yeah, thank God.
The way I look at it.
Did a lot of the men keep journals?
There were a few people that kept journals. I think I was in the aid station, so I'd go out and do missions here and there, but I wasn't as actively engaged in the community as a lot of these infantrymen were, where they would go out, and then when they come back, they would shower, change, have something to eat, and then go to sleep, because 4 hours later they got to get back up. So I had a little bit more time on my hands to actually write this. One thing that we did have over there, we had a problem with the water. Yeah, we go to fight a war in the desert, nobody brings water. Where's the logic in that? We couldn't get our water buffaloes. A water buffalo is a big trailer with a couple of 100-gallon tank on the back, and we called it a water buffalo, and they would bring them in. Well, we usually get that water, if we're here in the States, you can just fill that up at any fire hydrant. You could fill that up. Over there, we couldn't drink the water on the economy, because there was go to Mexico, don't drink the water. There were microbes in that water that were really hurting people. So they gave us bottled water. The problem with the bottled water is it would get very hot. So some guys would buy ice, and they would get these big tubs and they'd throw it in there. Well, the ice is from there. So even though you're not drinking that water, it's in there. So it's on the bottle, it's on your hands. The bugs get in you. And we had a good I'd say a good month and a half of people in the aid station with the squirts. They were in a bad way. A bad way.
And it doesn't hurt you beyond that, right? It's just uncomfortable and miserable for several days.
Extremely miserable. It's from both ends.
Right, but it's not. But you just there's people just get ill though. It's not.
Yeah.
Doing any permanent damage or anything like that.
No,
right?
there was nothing. It wasn't life-threatening, but you know, I'm sure when some of these guys were going through it, they were saying, "Oh, dude, just kill me now." We would have to keep them nourished with IVs. We'd try to give them a little bit of food, but after a while, you know, you give a guy something to eat, and then you turn your back, and he's throwing up. You know, sooner or later, you say, "I'm sorry, I'm keeping you awake."
So did eventually...
You sleepy?
I didn't sleep at all last night. I've been up since 8 o'clock yesterday morning. So yeah, I'm a little sleepy.
Oh, Lord.
Eventually, everyone just became immune to the microbes?
It wasn't an immune thing. It was just the antibiotics took over. We used a lot of antimicrobials that took a lot of it out. Antiparasitics.
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot about like your family's birthdays in here, and I mean, did you, when you wrote in here, were you kind of writing to them, hoping that one day they would know, you know?
Yeah, well, my sister Karen's, we were on AOL back in the day, and my sister.
You could talk to them when, I mean, did you have a limited time, or was
we would have an hour on a computer each day if you wanted it. So, once we got established in there, and we had an internet cafe, and we all chipped in for it, but it was free for us to use if we wanted it. But every night, I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Ellie and her mother and sisters would be on a video camera at 8 o'clock here. It's an 8-hour difference, so 8 p.m. here is 4 a.m. over there. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get on video, and we would do a video chat.
Every day? Not every day.
Not every day, but it was close.
A lot.
It was close. Yeah, we did it quite often. But my sister Karen, I wrote "Happy Birthday, Karen" on the bottom of an MRE box, and I had somebody take a picture, and then I uploaded it and emailed it to her.
Right.
And it was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to
Letters and...
and past wars where they
Vietnam,
didn't have
Korea,
that
World War II.
technology.
Hell, just go back to Desert Storm.
Desert Storm, right?
They didn't have these capabilities either.
Right.
You know, now, hell, just about everybody's got a cell phone.
Yeah. What was that like for you on your end, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, when he left, I was in the 3rd grade. You know, I didn't exactly understand what was happening. I mean, as far as I knew, you know, he was going to be gone for a little while. Growing up, you know, he would spend a couple weekends doing PT, so he'd be gone for 3-4 days at a time. That was fine. When he was gone for more than 3 or 4 days at a time, I was like, when's Daddy coming home? You know, when am I going to talk to him on the phone? When am I going to see him? It was really hard. At a certain point, you start to, you know, you don't watch the news anymore because it's every day. You're like,
Sorry.
you hear every day that someone's dying, and it's always like, always at my dad. I remember, the first time, no, it's fine. The first time he called, he told me that he was sending me something in the mail, and he sent me a journal. I still have the journal. It's locked up in a box in the attic at my mom's house, but I do still have it. And I remember the first time my dad called was the first time I heard him cry. I mean, it was hard. I was little. But I mean, he's here now.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm not all here now.
No, he's not all there,
but I'm here now.
But he's here.
But going back to the
Thank you.
you know, communications between now and Vietnam. There were no cell phones. All you could do was write. You know, when you watch, you see these guys even now, like the World War II veterans, they're reading letters from home. We had phone calls. We had the internet. It was so much easier for us. But I think that's also a downfall because you're too close and you get too much information. And if too much information is coming home, then you know everything that's going on. And sometimes that's not good for everybody who's home. They don't need to know that I almost stepped on a landmine today, or I got shot at 28 times today and missed, but thankfully, but you don't need to hear those things. I think it's better off just not knowing and wait for a letter.
Feedback.
Absolutely.
So
well, there was one time in particular, one of the first times I got the phone to call home, and from the roof of our building, we could see, we were only about a mile away from Saddam's palace, and it was called the Green Zone. That's where the Office of Rehabilitation was for, you know, the provisional government and stuff like that. Well, I called home, and it's early in the day, so it's just midday over here. And I tried to call the house. It was probably a Saturday or a Sunday, and there was nobody home. So I figured, all right, I got 15 minutes on the phone. Let me call my parents. They live down in Bonita. So I get my mother on the phone. Oh my God, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? Well, I'm watching an attack on TV right now. It's live on TV, and it's at the Green Zone. And I know you're really close to the Green Zone. You go there all the time. I said, well, I stood up. I looked over. I said, no, there's nothing going on. She's arguing with me. Ken, I'm telling you, this is going on right now. You have to be careful. I said, Mom, I'm here. I'm watching this. She said, I'm telling you, it's live on TV. I said, what color is the screen? She says, it's black and green. I said, Mom, that's night vision. That's at night. I said, this is the middle of the day over here. She said, well, I'm telling you, it's going on right now. I said, all right, put that on the phone. Like I said, too much information. I'm standing there live watching this. She's watching, exactly, she's watching a pre-recorded thing from the night before, a week before, wherever the hell it was, and she's arguing with me, telling me it's going on now. Hello? I'm here. I'm looking at this. I hold the phone up. You hear any gunfire? No.
Yeah, but that goes into with, you know, that fear that the media kind of instills in family and loved ones, you know, that aren't there to know that you're okay, you know, immediately.
Which is like the biggest reason we stopped watching the news, because when you would talk to him, he'd be like, no, we're okay. You know, it was kind of like, we're not going to instill this fear in us because we're watching something that everyone is manipulating in their own way.
Right, yeah.
So you think it's better with the technology, or you think it was better off when they didn't have it?
There are certain things that are better when it comes to the technology. The technology with staying in touch with family and friends, because it's so instant now, it can be a good thing. Now, let's say there's a soldier out there in Afghanistan now. When I say soldier, I mean airmen, Marines, sailors. It's generic across the board, so I just want to make that clear. If somebody says, yeah, I'll call you at 8 o'clock tonight, 8 o'clock comes and goes. What are they doing? Every time this guy calls me and says he's going to call me at 8 o'clock, I can count on that phone call at 8 o'clock. What happened to him? Where is he? So they'll try to call his cell phone overseas, and then they'll get the system is down or whatever it is, and then there's panic at home because they know he was going out on a mission. He may not have made it back from the mission yet. Things might have happened. Something might have happened. So with that, the ease in communications is wonderful, but there are downfalls to it. The fact that back in Desert Storm, when they were on the berm, and the berm actually is a berm between Kuwait and Iraq, they have a big 30-foot mound of sand that goes for miles along the whole border. And every few miles there's iron gates that open up, and that's your pass through there. But when they were on the berm back in 91, the news was there with with the cameras saying we are ready to invade Iraq right now. Hello? Why don't you just call Saddam and tell him we're coming? You know, just call them up and say, hey, look, we're knocking at your door right now. You might want to do something.
Okay,
Sometimes
here
it gets a little out of hand.
September 9th, you found out about that they extended for a year.
Oh, extensions.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Said that our mission is all but over. We have nothing to do. Boredom leads to depression. A depressed soldier is a dangerous weapon, and we can't find enough work for these men to do. Don't get me wrong, I will take boredom with the chaos of battle any day. Men are getting on each other's nerves. I fear fights will break out.
Yeah, fights did break out, but, you know, when you... Well, that was September 03, right?
Right, September 9th.
Yeah, September 03. So we've been there since May, or April, and we're winding down. We're waiting to be relieved. And with waiting to be relieved, they're not giving us missions. They're not letting us go home.
And you were a month out from going home, correct?
We were supposed to be. We didn't get out of there till February.
Right.
They kept extending us. And yeah, there is extreme boredom. When you have nothing to do, you can only play so much solitaire on a computer. And so many times you can throw a ball back and forth.
Right.
I mean, days on end with nothing to do. Guys were just getting up in the morning and sitting around, fighting with each other, bickering with each other. And it was small stuff like, dude, your feet stink. And bam, it would get into a fight.
Right.
We had these big tables, bigger than these here, and we put them together and we made ping pong tables. We were playing ping pong on marble tables. Now the ball would just slide on the marble because it was so slick. We had a guy bring out they brought in a pool table. Funny thing about the pool table though, the pockets were a lot smaller than the tables here. It was like a 10-foot table, but the pockets were really small. So after a few months of playing that, I came home and I think we went to Hustlers in Cape Coral. Me and a bunch of guys went up there and we were playing pool, and I was just like, I owned the table. It's smaller, the pockets are huge.
Yeah.
I wasn't shooting well, but I could get, if I could get into that little thing,
Yeah.
I'm getting in this thing. And oh yeah, I ran the table for a few hours, and then I said, you know, I'm too drunk, you need to drive me home. So let's get out of here. But every time we got extended, we had a Colonel Mansour would come in. And usually when he would come in, we would say, yeah, he's coming in to tell us. The rumor was always, he's coming to tell us when we're going home. He's going to tell us when we're going home. And he would never say that. You know, it was like every 2 or 3 weeks the guy was coming into the compound. And when he came in, he wanted everybody in the auditorium. He wanted everybody. Our building was a retired general's building, so they had a nice projection room. It had been looted before we got there and half destroyed. But there was still some seats there, and it was a stage. And the general would always want to come out, the colonel would always want to come out there and do his little, you guys are doing a great job. Dude, we're not doing anything now. And we'll get you out of here as soon as we can, but we have to extend you for another month or another 3 months. Well, after he did that 3 or 4 times, me being the sarcastic comedian that I am,
I believe it.
I went into the auditorium. I'm sitting there, and soldiers are getting a little anxious. You know, where's the colonel? Where's the colonel? Everybody's turning around. He's not here yet. He's late. I said, you know what? I got to do something. So I got up on stage. I said, everybody ready for the colonel to shove it up our asses again and tell us that we're staying? And they're booing and hissing at me. And I reached into my cargo pockets and I took out 2 tubes of Surgy lube. I said, if you want to lube up before they're screwing, come on up and get some. Well, as I'm doing this, the battalion commander is just walking in the door with the colonel.
Oh, wow.
And he hears me say that, and he just shakes his head. He went, what do you want from me?
Right.
So as we were coming down, the colonel said to me, you're going to need it. All right. Here we go again.
How many extensions did you have to go through?
Oh, it seemed like it was forever. It seemed forever. 3 or 4. Yeah. And it was only supposed to be a tour is supposed to be 6 months,
Right.
and we did 14. What's up with that? And we were National Guard. We're not active duty. All these guys just wanted to get back home to their wives, their families, their jobs, their friends. Here we are, stuck.
So funny
again.
how they told you 6 months, and then it ended up being a whole like double plus some.
Yeah.
Does that happen often?
It was happening in Iraq quite a bit because Afghanistan was going on too. There were guys rotating out of Iraq into Afghanistan. The 101st Airborne, after we finished with the invasion of Baghdad and we took over, they came through us for a health check so that they could get on their planes and jump into Afghanistan. Now that's some crazy shit. You go invade one place, now you go fight in another. I mean, that's just some craziness.
Real quick, hold on, I'm gonna pause this.
Was that like an emotional time, or was it, an angry time? Or
I honestly don't recall if
Okay.
if 9/11 was a big deal for us.
okay.
I don't recall.
It says here, this day is my reason for being here. Saddam had no weapons of mass destruction. At least they haven't found any yet. He was, however, a major money man for terrorists. I'm glad he's gone. Whatever I feel toward my chair of command or department of the Army, I am still proud to serve here. That will not change.
Yeah. Yeah, it just that whole political thing, it didn't make any sense, and there we are doing what we're told to do for what we thought was the right reason, and it turns out that they didn't find anything.
Right.
They didn't find any of the reason that we went over there. And Colin Powell wrote a book, My American Journey.
Right. You talk about this on this page, I think.
Yeah, and in his book, he said he would never put troops in harm's way
Without a plan to bring
without a clear and concise plan of withdrawal. Mm-hmm. And when he sat in front of the UN that day with that little vial of powder and said, just half of this would kill everybody in this building, in this neighborhood, or however he put it, he sold out. He sold out.
So how do you feel about that personally? Like what are your beliefs as to the war in Iraq? Like, did we have any place there? Did it make sense that we went to take them out anyways, even though they didn't come up with any tangible evidence in the end?
We didn't come up with any evidence. Why did we go? Why were we there?
What about Afghanistan? I know you were never there, but I'm sure you served with some of the guys who did.
Well,
who were.
It's trying to find the Taliban, and the Taliban is like a 10-headed snake. You cut off one head, you got 9 more there.
Right.
We cut off the head when they killed Osama bin Laden. However, in that type of organization, there's cells all over the place. You kill one, you got somebody else coming up who's going to be just as deadly or even more deadly. So, my personal belief, and I said this to, I think I said it to Mike Mason when he was with Channel 2 News. He said, how do you feel about these people that blow themselves up? I said, well, if you want to blow yourself up for your cause, go out into the middle of the field and pull the pin. Leave us out of it. If you want to make a statement, go ahead. Don't take these innocent people with you. Blow up a marketplace in Baghdad and kill 100 innocent Muslims. And the Muslim law says a Muslim will not kill a Muslim. And what do? They walk in there and boom.
Yeah. It says on September 28th, 2003, you were attacked last night. An IED was thrown into the compound. Nobody was injured, but 2 of the attackers were killed. When will they learn?
They threw it over the fence, and as a matter of fact, the guy that actually shot back, his name was Bratcher. Mm-hmm. He was up in one of our observation posts on the roof of one of the outlying buildings, and these guys threw this package over the wall. There was nobody there. It was, if they went half a block down the road, they would have hit the rear security. But they did it where there was nobody, and it didn't cause any damage to anyone or any of our property. But he just leaned right over the wall and lit them both up. Put a bullet right through one guy's head, and the other guy squatted down to shoot up, and the bullet went right through his crotch.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in the head got it worse. Got it better.
Yeah.
Did the one guy live?
Oh yeah.
He lived.
Oh yeah. And at that point, we just waited for the police to get there. We had him in the aid station. I still have blood on my pants from that guy. Some of it just won't come out, and on my boots too.
So when you guys made arrests like that,
We didn't arrest anybody.
you just detained them until
just-
the Iraqi police came in, and then are they? Do you know? Are they being sentenced validly
No idea.
under Iraqi law, or are they like
No
being let
idea.
go because who cares? You attacked a bunch of Americans. You know,
Well,
I mean,
this guy that was shot in the sack, we brought him into the aid station. We called the police. The police came and we just picked him up, took him off our stretcher and just picked him up by his clothes, threw him in the back of the car, and they took him to the hospital. He was not for us to treat.
okay.
Okay, 11th of October 2003. You hadn't written in a week. The 2nd ACR
Armored Cavalry Regiment.
was attacked in Saddam City, a few days ago. A daytime attack with a company-sized element, very organized. We have been in support of them as they conduct nightly raids. We have been doing a lot of shooting. It's a little scary out there again. My vehicle took some rifle rounds once during a raid. That wakes a person up, like the aqua velvet slap in the face.
Yeah. You might not remember that. You might be a little young, but well, I'm sure you saw Home Alone
Yes.
when he shaved and he put
Yeah.
the wow. That's the aqua velva slap. That wakes you right up. You know, and it was getting to the point where things were quieting down. IEDs, actually the next month, on November 10th, we lost a guy to an IED. But they weren't as used then as at that point back in October. So things were kind of quieting down, and if we took fire, then it was kind of rare. It was just really pot shots that, you know, trying to tell us, go home, you don't need to be here anymore, you've been here too long, you go home now. And then the IEDs started, and it was a whole new ballgame.
So you got leave in November? Okay. And how long were you?
2 weeks. That was fun.
That was fun. He came home, and well, let's not forget.
Did
how
you know he was coming?
No, we had
No
no
idea.
idea. It was me and my other two sisters. We were in the after-school program, and they called us out. I remember that day. My mom made us wear dress-up clothes. I was so miserable.
Yeah.
But they called us down early to leave, and my dad and my mom were standing there with, you know, the news crew and the whole 9 yards. And he had a Humvee with him. And then the next couple days, he drove us to school in a Humvee, and it was like...
No, that was Hurricane Charlie.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that was Hurricane Charlie.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Well, then that wasn't it. But it was a lot of fun when he came home. It was cool. But yeah, it was fun. It was like, you know, it was sad when he had to go. You know, we didn't know that he was only going to be there for a couple weeks.
Right.
We thought, you know, he was home for good. So it was bittersweet when he came, but and it was even harder to see him go again.
So you
Going
were back over
back
for 3
really
months,
sucked.
3.5 months until
Yeah,
you finally
you know,
got him home.
and coming out of there and getting back to air conditioning, running water, family, friends,
Good food.
food, civilization. You know, it was great. Going back, now we thought when we moved into this building, it was a bombed out shell of a building, and we had to rebuild it. We had to rebuild our own living areas. We had to rebuild build an aid station. So we pretty much, compared to the way other people were living, we were pretty much in a lap of luxury over there. We had our shit set. Although I had a mattress, it was only like a 2-inch piece of foam that on a piece of plywood. So it really wasn't much of a bed, but it was better than sleeping on the floor like the infantry guys were doing, or sleeping in a cot that'll break your back.
Right.
When I left here, when I got off the plane in Baghdad International Airport, I was like, well, I'm back. I walked into my compound and I was like, what a fucking shithole this is. What the hell am I doing back here? It's no wonder people go AWOL when they get home and just don't want to go back there. And then I got into my sleeping area, and you know, when you're living with 5 guys who only shower twice a week, you know, there's a certain funk that when it's on you, you know, you don't smell it as much when everybody else is smelling.
Right.
So it was just another day, and I walked in that room, I almost threw up. Like, oh, your goat smelling asses. And I had just gotten out of the shower like a day ago, you know, and then got on the plane, so I still had a little bit of soap and deodorant and cologne on me. I still smelled pretty good, and then, man, that ended quick.
Okay, so on December 4th, I guess it was the day after you got back, says you woke up to a loud explosion that shook the building. You received 3 casualties, all were minor, but soldiers were hurt. So, I mean, right when you got back, it was right back into this. Yeah. God. So, can I ask you, I mean, it's kind of like I guess a hot button question issue. I mean, what do you think about women in combat? Like, actually?
I don't think they belong there at all.
No? Okay.
Not at all.
I understand that. I mean, coming from someone who's been there and knows, I think that's a good, I mean...
And that's exactly what I said to my mother. She asked me about it, and I said, I don't think they belong there. She said, well, that's your opinion. I said, yeah, but that's an educated opinion because I've been to combat.
Right.
You haven't.
Right.
You can't say that it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I can definitively say it's a bad thing.
You think, I mean, emotionally on the men, it's the reason why?
Let me tell you, I think I mentioned this the other night. Your average American soldier is doing it for honor, integrity, and discipline. Mm-hmm. There's chivalry in there as well. Mm-hmm. If 5 guys are, if a platoon of 8 men are walking down the street and somebody gets hit, all right, your instinct is going to be, go get them out of the way, hand them over to the medic, and take them to the rear, to the casualty collection point. If it's a female, let's not even talk about engaging the enemy. Let's say, like soldiers do, you know, they trip and fall. You're carrying all that crap on your back. It's hot. You're pumping through the cities, and you know somebody goes down. They get dehydrated, or they just trip and fall. If a man trips and falls, his battle buddy is going to go over to him, grab him by the stack and swivel, get him up, and get him moving again. If a woman falls, somebody's going to be carrying her pack. Somebody's going to be standing next to her to make sure she's okay.
Right.
I'm telling you, that would be the mentality on the battlefield.
Right.
And it would take I've mentioned it a lot of times in the book, keep your head in the game.
Yeah.
You have to keep your head in the game. And if there's women around, it's a distraction.
Right.
It's a certain distraction.
Yeah.
Not to mention you.
It's kind of like an innate kind of feeling as a man, like you need to help or protect and
Yeah,
having
that's
daughters maybe.
yeah, that's outside the compound.
Yeah.
Inside the compound, you got guys 10 months, 11 months, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
They're going to be looking for something.
Yeah.
Not just that, you add a whole other element to the mix as far as men deal with certain health concerns the way it is. When you add a woman to that mix and her health concerns and general everyday normal female activity, it's you add a whole nother element. There
was somebody, there was a young vet in my class that he talked about. He argued against women in combat, and he's like, one of his points was that, you know, you shower once or twice a week, and women, you know, it's they just can't deal with that, especially, you know, when they're menstruating, or, you know, and it's like their hormones are, it's just different. They live, and then that it's kind of they talked about equality versus kind of fairness, you know, with the requirements to get into any department of the military, you know, how many pull-ups you have to do, what you have to run, like physical, you know. So it's kind of unfair because you can
the standards are different for women.
Right. So I mean, like their strength is different, obviously, not just physically, but I don't know if I'd say mentally, but physically, you know, carrying around a pack or running far distance, it puts you at a disadvantage when they can't, you know.
Well, there's also, you know, when you talk about running certain distances, as far as physical training goes, they have you have three things you have to do: a 2-mile run, push-ups, and sit-ups, and that's your Army physical fitness test.
Right.
Yeah, APFT. If you're 18, they expect you to run the 2 mile at, we'll say, 10 minutes. All right, or between 10 and 11 minutes, and that'll get you 100. And it could go down to, we'll say, 15 minutes to give you just a pass. When you get older, I may be able to run that 2-minute mile in 13 minutes to get 100. But the women are on a totally different scale. So the older you get, yeah, they ease up on you a little bit because they know your muscle mass goes and you can't handle that kind of durational activities. So they give you a little bit more time to do it. Same with the push-ups. I think for me 100% was at that age, at 38. I think 50 push-ups was 100 for me.
I can't do one.
We're not enlisting anytime soon.
But I mean, that's another exactly physical composition. Women don't have the same upper body strength to carry around tens of pounds of equipment.
Right.
They're not built for it. And you mentioned earlier mental capacity. Women are, in general, it's natural. It's human instinct. Women are more emotional. They're more sensitive. There's a lot of things that estrogen does, and it makes them unstable in that.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
Not just unstable in life, because we all know that's true, but unstable in that capacity that how do you deal? Like, I can't imagine how I would deal with a situation of seeing my friend shot in the neck, seeing something like that and having to carry someone out. I personally, I don't have that capacity. I don't have that mindset. I would break down. I'd freak out. I'd be a mess.
In the Army, we have these people we call sick call rangers. And if they get a hangnail, they got to go see Doc. They don't want to go on patrol. They'll come up with some snivelly excuse to get them out of it. Well, once a pattern develops, everybody in his platoon is going to call him the Blue Falcon. He's the buddy fucker. He's the one who's just going to let his buddies do all the work, and he's going to try to get out of it. Those guys are brought to the line, and you get your ass out here and do it. Now think of a woman doing the same thing. They're not going to treat a woman the same way.
Right.
Oh, she's tired. She's ovulating. She's on her period. She's got cramps. Let her sleep. Leave her alone. We'll get another man to fill in the position. And that ain't the way it's supposed to be.
Did you ever read The Things They Carry by Tim O'Brien?
No.
Talked about men in Vietnam. It was written by men in Vietnam, and they just talked about everything they carried and described it.
Oh, I think I did read that actually. Yeah. And I talked about the pictures they kept in their pockets and the rosary beads and stuff like that.
That was on Christmas Eve.
Was that in there?
Yeah, it's on Christmas Eve. It must have been a Christmas miracle.
Must have been.
What was it?
The guy.
What was it? Reimer was his name?
It was on Christmas Eve.
And that was another Crawford, who was shot in the face. The man must have had an angel on his shoulder. He's very much alive, minus one tooth and a broken nose. Crawford.
Okay, it was Crawford. The RTO was Reimer then.
I don't say that in here. That's not the same guy, right?
No, it's not the same guy, but that is the same one. That is the one, but I was thinking of somebody else. That's right.
You gotta go.
There was another man, Tuller. He was shot in the leg.
Dustin Tuller, yeah, he was shot in the leg.
Yeah, that same guy.
Oh yeah, and he was.
Bye.
Bye, Molly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dustin was shot in the leg, and I don't know. It just came out. I said, all right, you need to calm down, because obviously in agony. I said, calm down. He said, fuck you. You're not the one who shot.
Right.
I said, oh shit. Sorry, man. I'm just trying to calm you down. So we gave him a shot. Calmed him down quite a bit.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Were you wounded at all? You were never wounded.
So, since your time back, how have you dealt? How have you kind of got back into civilian life?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. If you go right from day one in basic training and you do your 15 weeks through basic and advanced individual training, they train you for war. They put you in that situation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then you go to war, and you've been trained for war, and you lived war. And then when you come home, you just don't have to live it anymore. There's no transition. There's no switch. You started out as a civilian, lived lived civilian life for 18 years. You go in the military, well, for the next 4 years, you eat, sleep, and live war, making war. And then when you get out, you can't just flip that switch. There's no transition. There's no training down. We had an 8-hour block of instruction on transition, and that was it. And basically it focused on...
You put people in prison through longer than that.
It focused on your wives have been home, paying the bills, being in the head of the household, taking care of the kids. Don't expect to just jump back in there and take things over from her, because then she's going to feel inadequate. They were more worried about how our spouses and the general public perceived us than how we were going back into the environment. So, first two things I did was I joined the VFW and I enrolled in VA. And I've been seeing a psychiatrist quite often. Quite often.
My uncle was in Vietnam, but he's completely on disability for PTSD, and it took him. He just got on disability for PTSD now. It's been a long. I can tell for him. He went through a lot. When he was out of the army, he was an alcoholic. He did the drugs. He did, He went through everything, and I think he's been sober now. I want to say 30 years or so, but it was like, he kind of has like this good story to tell, so if you could say something to younger vets, is there anything that you could give them advice
Get help.
for?
Get help. And the reason I went to get help is I was exhibiting behavior that if one of my junior soldiers was exhibiting, I would have told him to go get help.
Right.
I would drop them off at school and come home and I'd be shaken. I'd drink half a bottle of scotch and then go back and pick them up. It was bad. It was bad. The first few years coming home, it was extremely bad.
Every night, I get up in the middle of the night, I go get a glass of water. When he was gone, it was routine. My mom wouldn't wake up. I remember the first couple times he was home, I went out into the kitchen and I got a glass of water. And I remember like 3 or 4 times he would wake up from a night terror and he would come screaming in the kitchen, and my mom would have to like
scare the shit out of her. She's not expecting this.
What the? Dude, you can't do that to me. And then my mom would come out and console and be like, Ken, you gotta calm down, just get back in bed. It's not just hard for him to adjust. It's not just hard for the veterans. It's hard for the families, because before my father left, he was a completely different person. We went through a period of our lives where we didn't come in contact with each other much, simply because I wasn't ready to handle the person he is, because he's completely different. And it's hard, but we're working on it, because I have to understand that what he's gone through has changed who he is as a person. And
what I've gone through has changed who you are as a
definitely changed
who you were
who I am
as a person.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I do, believe it or not.
Do you regret it?
Nope. Not at all.
You're happy with who you've become since then, and you're...
Boy, that's a tough question.
It's a loaded question.
Am I happy with who I am?
Are you? Essentially our experiences make us who we are, and are you comfortable and are you happy in where your life is now in comparison to maybe where it would be if you hadn't gone? Are you happy with some of the changes or any of the changes? Do you think it made you, quote unquote, more of a man? Or
no, it made me who I am. It definitely made it. People say you can't let this experience define you, but you can't have a long-term chapter in your life like that and it not affect you in a certain way. If I didn't go over there, I would probably still be working at the prison in a dead-end job.
You're a corrections officer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't know I wouldn't know I wouldn't be involved in the VFW because I wouldn't know about the organization and I wouldn't know what it does for veterans.
Do you feel like that was a big help?
That's a tremendous help for me. Tremendous help for me.
Would you be willing to talk to any of the vets at FGCU if we could
Yeah.
organize something?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a service officer as well for my post. I'm the district commander, judge advocate, and a service officer. And my job as a service officer is to try to get benefits for veterans who are entitled to the benefits. So I listen to their stories, I fill out the paperwork for them, and try to get them the benefits that they deserve. And if they have benefits, but something has gotten worse and they need a jump in their benefits or a certain bump that maybe they need to be looked at again, then I put the paperwork in for them. And I love doing that. It's helping veterans. And there's no better feeling than when I get up from a meeting with a guy and a month later he calls me back and says, or 2 months later, hey, dude, they just bumped me from 10 to 50%. And I said, well, good, come on back in. We'll do an appeal on that because you should be getting more for whatever your injury or your problem is. Come on in and we'll work on an appeal right away. They just bumped me from 50 to 70%. Hey, great. But they're all guys, like one in particular I'm working on, he was denied back in 1959. I can't do anything for you. You have 2 years to file an appeal. The only thing you could do now is go to VA and re-enroll because he's no longer enrolled. He let that go. So you need to re-enroll and reapply. But helping veterans, man, there's no better feeling.
And without the VFW, you wouldn't have met Janice.
Yep. Yeah.
So in the long haul, you think it benefited you more than it hurt you?
I think I have more direction now to my life. I think if I was, like I said, I would still be working at the prison. I'd be getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, mowing the lawn, making dinner, watching TV and going to bed. But now I get up in the morning, I go to a post, I go to a meeting, I have millions of things to do every day. And I come home and she'll tell you there was a time there that she thought I was ducking her. She would call me up and say, Daddy, let's hang out today. And I'd say, no, I'm sorry, honey, I'm in LaBelle or I'm in Naples and I can't. She was like, yeah, right. Well, she came and spent a couple of days with us a few months ago. And she said, what are we doing today?
They were gone all day long. Just recently. It was like 11:30. I'm like, hello, where are you? Oh, I'm at the Fort Myers Beach Post. I'll be home soon. Rolls in at 11:30. Hey, I'm home. Oh, that's cool.
Well, remember when you stayed that like in the middle of the week a few months ago? And
Do you live here?
Well, I just moved in with him actually.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
she came over and spent a few days in the middle of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it was. And Tuesday she got there in the afternoon and had nothing to do. She said, what are we doing tomorrow? I said, well, tomorrow I have to go here, and here and take care of some things. So put her in the car with me and we went to like 3 different posts and I'd go in the back and have a meeting with a commander and then come out. All right, let's go. We got to go to another place. And in the car after lunch, she's like, you know, I thought you were bullshitting me. I didn't think you were actually doing these things. I thought you just didn't want to hang out with me. I said, it's not the case at all. I said, I'm busy.
Yeah.
There's a movie out, a disc. It's called Gunner, Maine. I've seen parts of it online. I haven't seen it in like Walmart in the movie section or anything like that, but it's called Gunner, Maine. And Gunner, Maine was a field artillery or air defense artillery unit that was about a mile north of our compound, and that's where Uday's castle was. And that picture that's in the journal there, I'm sitting on the wreckage of his castle.
Oh, yeah,
But that's where that was Gunner, Maine, and those guys every day 6 o'clock you could hear their machine guns rocking because they drove their neighborhood. They drove around their neighborhood and they never got the chance to see who the players were. We were infantry. We were in the infantry, so we walked around our neighborhood. And when you're walking at at a slow pace, you can engage the community. When you're driving at 20 miles an hour, you don't get to know anybody. But then in that video, they had a pool. They were having cookouts. Yeah, Gunner, Maine. They were having cookouts, and that's probably why they were getting hit every day.
There's a picture in there I want to actually take a picture of. Came out pretty good.
Fingerprints on it.
It's all right.
Wow. Okay, that one we read, that was the extension. I'm just kind of looking to see if there's any.
I went to December. I mean, just kind of browsed through it.
Here's something that maybe you just have a. I don't know if you have a different opinion on or same opinion. It says something about I'm watching 9/11 speeches on TV. Most of what I'm hearing is people throwing the words hero and patriot around. People in the towers or the ground and in the planes were veterans. They died horrible deaths. The heroes of that terrible day live on. We are a face to go on, and we fight every day to ensure that something like this never happens again. Are they the heroes or are you?
No, they're victims. They were victims. I think that might be what I was trying to convey there, but I'm not a hero.
Don't think so?
No. I've served with some, but I'm not. The people on those planes and in the towers, they were victims. They weren't heroes. They fought. The people on the planes fought and tried to save themselves and lives. Yeah, some of them I might say were heroes, but for the most part, no, they were all victims of a terrible, terrible attack.
But it's better for, I think their families and other people to romanticize it kind of so that they can,
yeah, and, and the thing is, people throw the word hero around. It's just all too much. And it's the same with the word war zone. A tornado will come through somewhere or a hurricane and you'll get some 18, 20-year-old news reporter say it looks like a war zone.
Right.
How the fuck do you know? You ever been to one?
Yeah.
No.
So there's little things that
yeah, those little things, they,
yeah.
Ooh, yeah, they gnaw at me.
September 17th, 03. I have made up my mind. I have been trying to control a situation that I have no control over. It is in God's hands now. He may not give me clear answers, but I know that He knows that He hears me. I have been very scared lately. I'm afraid that I won't make it out of here alive. And I'm trying to be strong.
Yeah.
Did you really, how often did you think that way? Did you really?
There wasn't a day that I walked out of that compound or rode out of that compound and didn't say the 23rd Psalm. You know?
Did you say you spent most of your days scared? I mean, in fear for your life, obviously, but
if I was in my bunk, you know, there was relative safety there. We were down in the basement, big concrete, metal reinforced building. You know, they couldn't touch us down there. But I tell you what, when you walk in the streets and you're ineffective if you're not scared, if you don't have that edge about you. Because how did that Marine Corps general put it? Something about be polite and courteous to everyone, but be prepared to kill everyone. To everyone you meet, but be prepared to kill everyone you meet. Something along that line, and it makes absolute sense. You have to be diplomatic, but you also have to know that you don't know that other guy's intentions, and you might have to kill them.
It's rough.
Yeah, there were times, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped working at the prison. When I was at the prison, they used to teach us in the academy, and when we got there, when that door slams closed behind you, the hair on the back of your neck should stand up, because you're in there with career criminals, lifers who have nothing to lose, and they'll take your life just as soon as look at you. When I got home and I went up to the prison, that door closed behind me, I felt nothing. I felt nothing. I lost the edge. So I couldn't do the job anymore.
Jesus. It's hard to imagine. I don't. Worst I encounter every day is some drunk asshole in front of me swerving. That what if this guy drives off the road and my truck goes into him? And there's no.
No, that's something we took from a raid.
It says attack in 72 hours, 1,700 to 2,300. 9-member team, 4 RPGs, 2 launchers, 6 AK-47s, 4 grenades, 2 pistols, 2 teams. A4 personnel, B5 personnel. 1 team will attack from previous attack position and target 240 front or 240 left. 1 team will attack OP number 1 from road behind I guess it's Alpha Company Barracks and rear gate. Attacks appear to be well planned and should be simultaneous. Do you remember that? It was October 2nd.
Yeah, that was in a briefing. That's probably in my little briefing book as well. Every day we had a briefing with the first sergeant and the commander, and I would write all my notes down in that so that I could bring the information back to.
So this is what you collected in a raid?
No, that's what human intelligence led us to. So in other words, there was some rat in the community, a snitch, who was just giving us information about this raid, and I think they went out and took care of it, or the other insurgents took them over and did whatever they were going to do.
It's a very different perspective than, talking with you, talking with the other guys the other night, than I think I've ever had. And I mean, I was young when Desert Storm was going on, so I don't remember much of it, but I was 18 in 03, and I can remember seeing things on TV and seeing the news, and like you said about your mother, watching the, it's live, and it's always I think of you as a hero. I think of all you guys that way, because I never have the call to step in there and do it. A lot of people I know would never. And that's how I watched it. Sitting on the couch, news on TV, was, thank God for these people that are there to protect us. And sitting here and hearing it from you, it's, I don't think you give yourself enough credit.
No, I don't.
Okay, I have to go very soon, but I don't know if you want to talk about this one, but it talks about today as I took off my gear, a bomb exploded, windows shattered. People, do you remember that? And you said that there was you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, I took my stuff off, and you've seen The Matrix, right? All right, towards the end of the movie, when he finally realizes that he's just in a computer and he can control everything, and he kind of flexes and the walls go like this, I took my stuff off, and you'd come in the aid station here, and you got this big open room, and you go through the back door here and through the hallway up to where the sergeant of the guard was, or where the guard desk was. And these walls were lined with glass, plate glass. This bomb went off, and I was walking up to check in and tell them that your company is coming in and my medics are back. I was walking up there, the bomb went off, and the glass did like that. And I was standing in the middle of that thing, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm fucking dead. This stuff is going to shatter, and it's going to cut me to tiny little pieces. Thankfully, it didn't. It just, the glass just like a wave. Scared the crap out of me. I stayed there for a little while. A couple of drops of pee came out. You know, it was an experience.
Was anyone injured?
No.
In that?
No. That was actually, I think that was at the Turkish Embassy right around the block from us. That might have been at the Turkish Embassy right around the corner from us. That was a big car bomb that went off.
Yeah, it's gonna look good. See smoke on the horizon. The bomb exploded approximately 2 blocks from here at the Turkish Embassy. Yeah.
That left a crater in the ground, probably 8 feet deep, 30 feet around.
Wow.
They have these big concrete blocks out in front of these embassies and the government buildings so that you can't drive a car into them.
Right.
You can just walk past them. You know, it's only 2 feet space, so you can walk through. Those things were like almost obliterated, chipped down to nothing. The front of the building, there was no windows in the building, and it was a big blast. It was big.
It's like so much to absorb, you know, and I know it's a lot for you to kind of share too, and for you to hear maybe.
Yeah, because
I don't think that
this
was
is
me.
stuff
I
I've never
think I'm on
heard before. You know, when he came back, and he said that he had a journal. He's like, you know, I'll let you read it when your time is right. And he's like, you can read it when you're 18. When I turned 18, he's like, you know, you can read my journal now, but that journal is not something I ever want to possess. I don't ever want to touch it. I don't ever want to flip through the pages. I don't want to read it. I don't want to have anything to do with it, because that'll just, you know, it was hard enough for me when he was gone, and I understand, you know, that he's a different person, and I get that and I accept that, but I don't want to read what he went through.
Right.
Because it'll just be too much for me.
Right.
From October 27th, 2003. There have been explosions all day. Now it's 22:35, and I just came inside and we heard 2 large explosions. Then a gunfight at Gunner Main. After the gunfire stopped, a white flare was seen in the area. It's a sign of trouble, big trouble. Do you remember that? Or was that?
No, not
so whatever
particularly.
the trouble wasn't big enough?
No. Well,
for you guys.
Well, they had their own aid station up there.
Okay.
They had their aid station. They had their company aid station. We had a battalion aid station. We had a battalion-sized element with us. That if they got overwhelmed with what was going on, they would call us and they would escort a couple of ambulances up to them if they needed them, or if they were out on the border between our zone and their zone, or if they came into our zone, then they would bring their casualties to us.
So were you guys, did you have like a specific troops, specific battalions that you worked with solely, that like if you were going on a raid, if your medic crew was sent on a raid, you went with this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, because those were the infantry guys that you were working with?
Right. We had Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie company. We had 3 companies and a headquarters company. I was with the HHC, the headquarters company, because we had the aid station. The headquarters company consists of supply, the transportation, all the things that support the infantry companies. And it's where the commanders are and stuff like that. So we had the command aid station. Each platoon within the company, so you figure 4 companies in a platoon, each platoon had their own medic. And having their own medic, if they went out, there were times when, all right, I had a staff in my aid station. I had my medics in my aid station. That was my squad that I showed you.
Right.
Those guys were mostly in the aid station with us. there were times when a platoon would be tasked a little hard, and the medic would come down to resupply, and I'd look at him, he'd be shot. I mean, I don't mean shot like bang bang. I mean, he'd be toasted. Right. So I'd say, why don't I take you off the line? I'll send somebody out with you. And if ever I said I'd send somebody out for you, I would go, because I wasn't going to go and tell somebody to go when and do something that I wasn't going to do. Yeah. So I'd take a patrol, and I'd go out. We did river patrol too on the Tigris, which was it was fun. A little boat ride for a couple of days. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And no
actually
danger.
The river patrols were
big ass crocodiles or anything.
No. The river patrols they never messed with us. We didn't take any fire. Nothing exciting happened. It was just
peaceful.
A day on the boat.
Yeah.
We did some boarding. We boarded some boats that were going up and down the river. It was exciting in that aspect, but there was nothing. I mean, shit. It was just another.
Right.
Go out for a cruise.
This is from, it looks like the same day. It looks like another entry on the same day, October 27th. And it says, there are so many things I still need to do. The biggest thing on my mind is my girls. I love them all so much. And if I don't make it back, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for them. They do not deserve that pain. I can only pray that my God, my Lord and Savior watches over them. It was families where you kept your head, what kept you sane,
Oh, yeah.
kept you.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, when he was gone and his mother would come over, I would pray for the day he came back to help me with my spelling homework, because she was horrible, Every
Like
spelling
anxiety ridden, or just with the spelling?
Just like, she's a very hands-on grandmother, but she would come over and I would have to sit there and do my spelling words. I couldn't erase. I couldn't use an eraser with a pencil. I had to only use my pen. She wouldn't help me with my math homework, so I'd be stuck in the dark. And my mom, she'd be working all day, and I'd just be like, when is my dad coming home? Because I cannot stand this anymore. It was,
She was the same way when I was growing up.
I looked forward to him coming home because it meant that I wouldn't have to deal with someone that hands-on, If I asked him for help with math homework, he wouldn't always give me help. He'd give me another problem to work on.
Yeah.
But it's better than not having an eraser to do spelling homework with.
Hard to read this. I can't imagine how you felt reading it, and I understand why you have no desire to.
And you writing it too.
And you living it.
Yeah.
Well, when I was writing it, it was just another day.
Yeah.
I was just recounting my day.
Did you look back on it and kind of have you limit
today was
yourself to the...
today was the first time I opened it in a long time, and I was going through some things, and I was like, whew, man.
I knew it was going to be some...
Yeah.
And this is from November 3rd. Said things are still going boom here. A helicopter was shot down yesterday. There were about 35 soldiers on it, 15 dead as of this morning. It was a bad day. Were you...
that wasn't by us, though. That
wasn't by you?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't.
So you weren't the team that dealt with this? Okay.
No.
Anything like that happen where, in such a massive... where so many were lost?
No.
To your medic team?
No, thankfully no. Thankfully no.
And you guys were living here?
Mm-hmm.
In the Cape, yeah.
In the Cape, okay. I wasn't sure if, because you're not from here, right?
No, I'm from New York.
New York. How long have you been in Florida?
18 years.
Always in Fort Myers, or
Bonita, Fort Myers,
surrounding
yeah, this
area, but West Coast?
Yeah. Yep, always in this area.
I think,
The day Saddam was captured,
yeah, that's
December 14th, 2003.
Yeah, that was another firing shots in the air kind of day.
yeah, because you thought they were going to
Thought it was
retaliate
over.
more, kind of.
Oh no, actually they were celebrating.
Oh, okay.
They were celebrating. They
Yeah.
were glad that he was
But
caught.
were you worried about, you know?
Yeah, we were. We were on alert, but we knew it was just celebratory fire.
Right.
You know, we got. Speaking of that, it just reminded me. We had gotten there, and there was a soccer field a block up from us, a block to the east from us, and they had been using it. The troops went there and they dug fighting positions and foxholes, and they were using it for their target practice and stuff like that. So they pretty much took over the field and destroyed the field. The engineers came in and redid the field, reworked the whole field, and actually we were awarded the infantrymen got their combat infantryman's badge, and I got my combat medical badge on that field.
Wow.
Well, a couple of days later, once they had the official opening of the field, this big crowd is coming down the street, and everybody's get your shit on, get your stuff, something's going on. Hundreds of people coming down the street, and they got these big banners. It's like 6 o'clock at night. Our interpreters are gone. There's nobody here. What do we do?
Right.
What do we do? One of the interpreters was in the crowd and came up to the gate, and they let her in. She came up to the sergeant of the guard. Now there's 200 people out in front of our building. We're like, what the hell is going on? Now everybody's got safeties off. We're ready to rock and roll. Turns out, thank you for opening the soccer field. We want to challenge you to a game.
Oh, wow.
So we accepted their challenge. Yeah, that Saturday or whatever it was, we went out there and got our asses whooped because it was soccer. It
Yeah.
wasn't football or baseball.
Right.
We got our asses whooped.
That's great. That's funny. They're like crazy.
I'm just kind of on the end of it and browsing, and it's about when you found out you were finally going home. Do you remember how you felt? Like, what was the...
I don't know what the book says, but I'll tell you.
I mean,
was probably happy
it doesn't,
as a
I don't know that
clam.
it says much. It's just a little bit about, you're finally going home, and, them collapsing the internet cafe, and I can't quite find the words to describe how I feel. So I don't know if maybe now
I was
you
just
know
happy.
those words,
Just
or...
happy as hell. But they took us from Baghdad up to Balad, and we left in the middle of the night. Nobody knew when we were leaving. They say nobody knew when we were leaving, but you know what? When you're leaving and you've got 10 5-ton trucks and Connexes all filled up with your stuff because you're leaving, yeah, they know we're pulling out.
Right.
We weren't allowed to leave anything for them. Even the stuff that we bought off the economy, it had to go into the burn pit. So we take all of our stuff and they tell us, we're going to Balad, we're going to be up there for a day, maybe 2 days, and then we're going to get on the planes and we're going to come home. That's the plan. So it was Baghdad. It was really nice. The funny thing about that country is you go 50 miles north, it's freaking cold. So nobody took their polypros, their long johns, or sweaters or anything like that. It was like 80 degrees at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock. So we load up in the trucks and off we go. We get up to Balad. We're freezing our asses off. We were there for almost a week. All of our stuff had already, now we went through customs, so we had nothing to claim. So when we were in the area on post, we could buy whatever we wanted because it was already set. We couldn't get to our gear on the flight line because that had already gone through customs, and they weren't going to say, yeah, you guys are special. We can take your stuff out and then we'll just redo it again.
Right.
So we had to buy blankets and all kinds of crap.
But he bought the 2 nicest blankets in the whole entire world. They're like, I have one has like a jungle on it, and then the
I
other
didn't know
one.
if that was sarcasm.
No, they're like, I don't know if you've ever been to up around Tampa and St. Pete, and on the side of some roads they got these big king-size blankets that look like tapestries. I bought 2 of those. It was so flippin' cold at night, I would lay on one and like just taco shell myself in the other one and just roll up and go to sleep. It was like 30 degrees.
I got them. One of them has an elephant and a cheetah on it, and then the other one has a coin with the American seal on it, and then the Statue of Liberty. They're nice.
So now we get on the plane to come home. We didn't get on a regular plane to come home. We got on a C-5, an Air Force plane, and our problem with the Air Force was they had people who were going home on leave. We're going home for good. I'm never coming back here. We've been here for over a year, and a couple of guys started some crap with some of the airmen because you've only been here 3 months and you're going home on leave now. Dude, I've been here a year.
Right.
I'm going home for good. And basically their sentiment was, you know what, if I could give up my seat to you, I would. But I can't, because my orders say I got to get on this plane. So basically they were saying, sorry, really sorry, not really a sorry about your luck, pal, ha, you're staying.
Yeah,
but they were actually kind of, they kind of felt it too. But when we finally got on the plane, here we are, and all we left Baghdad with was our overnight bags. And now we've got our overnight bags. I've got these 2 big blankets that I tried to shove back into plastic containers, the plastic shells, and those are between my legs. I got my bag up here. The thing about a C-5, when you get in a regular plane and you take off, you're facing the front of the plane.
Yeah.
In a C-5, you're facing the back of the plane. So when you start taking off, you're going this way. It doesn't push you back into your seat. And when you take off, you're looking down at the rest of the plane. It was kind of an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
But we're all sitting up there. 75 of us are sitting up there, and there's no windows, no nothing. You have no idea what's going on outside. And finally, we're going like this, so, we must be landing. We land in Spain, and we landed in Morone. But they didn't have the accent over the O. So I told my battalion surgeon, I said, hey, Kendall, they named this place after you. He looks at it and he says, oh, you're so lucky we're going home. I said, yeah, I know. It was Moron, not Morone.
Right.
So when we get off the plane, we have to walk down from the flight deck, we'll say, and there's the rest of the plane, the rest of this cargo plane that's damn near empty.
Right.
Took about 4 or 5 hours because they have to put a new crew on, and the new crew has to inspect the entire aircraft. It's got to be refueled, and all this stuff has to happen. So here we are in Spain at an Air Force base. They opened up the dining facility for us early. It's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And by sunup, 6:30, 6:45, everybody in my battalion, we're just laying on the grass around the dining facility. And these airmen are coming up. We're like, the hell is going on? We're going home, man. We're going home. We're just coming from Iraq. And they, hey, welcome home. And they just kept walking. But when we got back on the plane, one of the guys asked one of the airmen, one of the flight crew, do we have to be stuck up here? And he says, no, you guys can come down here. You come down and walk around. Oh, shit. I brought my blankets. I went and laid down downstairs. But landing in Georgia, I'll never forget the day. Well, I don't know the date, but I'll never forget the day when we landed. It was February 2nd, wasn't it? I think it was February 2nd.
There was an entry on January 30th that said it was cold last night, which was you were just telling us about. And then the next entry is February 5th, and it says I'm back. We finally landed in America on, February 2nd. The air was cold when I stepped from the plane.
Yeah, I tell you
but
what.
It smelled so fresh.
They opened up that door, and the air starts coming in, you know, the fresh air. Because there was no terminal, we landed and they bring the stairs up and you get off the plane. It was cold. It was cold, but it was a good cold. It wasn't like 20 degrees. It was like 40, and you could smell the mist in the air and the pine. And when I came down and walked out the door of the aircraft, I could see green. There was no green over there. They had trees, but all the trees had dust and nastiness on them. Yeah. But to see the pine trees and see how beautiful it was, there was a light mist. Oh, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
So we just passed the 10-year anniversary since we came home, right?
Yeah.
Just so we can wrap up here so we don't keep you guys here forever. The last, as you say, you're going to close this rather large chapter in your life. The last 2 lines read, "We who have seen war never stop seeing it. In the silence of the night I will always hear their screams."
That's a quote from Joe Galloway, who was a combat photographer in Vietnam. And I think it was a perfect way to end the book. Now, I didn't call Joe and get permission to use that, because it's not going to be published, but that's the only thing I could think of writing.
Do you try to forget it?
I wouldn't say I try to forget it. I just don't try to remember it. I wouldn't say I try not to remember it, because I have to remember it. It's okay. But I just don't go out of my way to remember certain things. But there's certain smells, certain times of a day. You know, you get a certain feeling. You know, and a lot of times, you know, you'll wake up in the morning. I don't know if you guys grew up down here in Florida.
No.
All right.
She did. I didn't.
All right. You
up north.
All right. You wake up and you smell a certain smell of a day. You know, a certain sweetness in the air, and it brings you back to when you were 9 or 10 years old, and puts a smile on your face.
Sensory details.
Yeah, you know, and I get that, and I go, oh fuck.
So when you guys sit around and you're hanging out at the post, you're not rehashing war stories?
We don't talk about this stuff when we're there. No,
just
not at all.
Like friends hanging out at a bar.
And that's the general misconception that the public has towards the VFW. They believe that the VFW is nothing but a bunch of old guys sitting around getting drunk telling war stories.
No.
It's not. It's not. I think when you guys showed up at the post on Thursday, that was the most a lot of people have actually talked about their experiences.
Right.
Because honestly, the guy sitting next to me, you have to be a veteran of a foreign war. So 99% of the people in there are combat veterans. I got nothing to tell you that you haven't already been through. So we don't even discuss
you don't like
stuff like that.
Share details of maybe differences between what it was like in Iraq compared to guys who were in Vietnam, compared to guys who were in Germany or on a barge on the South Pacific. And
we'll talk about little things like that. You know, oh, you guys had it good. You had a tent.
Yeah.
I had to sleep in my foxhole, you know, but it's like that old story. I had to walk to school 2 miles uphill both ways, you know.
Right.
You know, living conditions, food, the common things that, that you know, the military things that you gripe about, everybody talks about them. But we don't talk about
So it's more of a support.
combat experiences,
common, shared these
and it's all jokes. You know, I've been to Navy bars, I've been to Marine Corps bars when I was in the service, and you you call a sailor squid, Marine jarhead, or dumbass, or whatever you want to call them. But you know what? That may cause a fight if you go into one of those bars. But at the VFW, if you got a bunch of Marines around and you tell a Marine Corps joke, they'll laugh. They'll laugh because they've got an Army joke that they're going to back it up with. You know, but for the most part, in the VFW, we don't talk about these things. We're just there to help and support each other. Honor the dead by supporting the living.
Thank you. Anything else you want to say for the record here?
No. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ken.